Another day, another piece of injury news as the Browns came out of their week 3 loss with a handful of injuries. So we're going to jump right into it, starting with Myles Garrett, who is considered day to day, as Kevin Stefanski put it when speaking to the media. He is dealing with a leg injury. He had a foot injury, keep him out of a lot of practice over the last 2 weeks, and then he hobbled off the field on Sunday. He would go back in the game. He battled through. Battle, by the way, was a popular word for Stefanski when describing a lot of the injured players, but specifically Myles Garrett, who would ultimately leave the stadium on the back of a golf cart. I mean, he didn't get carted off the field, but clearly he needed some help and some assistance getting to his car or wherever he was headed next. So Garrett, day to day, if you want my honest opinion, it's probably a somewhat severe injury that he is just going to keep under wraps and kind of approach it like an NHL player and just call it a lower leg injury, and we'll just go from there. But doubt we see much of him in practice over the next couple of weeks, and then he just finds a way to suit up on Sundays because there's just no way you're dragging Myles Garrett off the field. Now, Wyatt Teller is considered week to week. Kevin Stefanski called him a candidate to go on IR. He suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain on the field goal for the Browns, so it's a bummer for the Browns to lose another piece of their offensive line with, one and a half starters already out to begin the season. We'll get to the half starter in a second, but yeah, Wyatt Teller likely going to be gone for at least a month, and that could place him on injured reserve. So if you see that pop up over the next 24 hours, don't be surprised. Don't expect to see him probably until sometime around Halloween. Now, James Hudson, we did not get an update on him. He left the game with a shoulder injury, which we'll talk about his role in the game for a little bit later on. But he entered to replace Dawg Jones. Ultimately, got injured a few plays later, so out he went. But Stefanski did not have an update on him or his other tackle, Jed Wills, who suffered a knee injury. His first game back since his knee injury last year against the Cardinals in November. He could not finish the game as a result. No update on either one of these two players here. We'll probably get our first update on Wednesday when the practice report comes out leading into the Raiders matchup, but we'll hold our breath that one or two of these guys can be back for week 4 in Las Vegas. Now, expanding on Myles Garrett, I found this part of his Zoom presser this morning to be quite interesting. When asked about, hey, Myles Garrett got an MRI, but what part of his leg did he get an MRI on? Stefanski said, well, we're just not going to share that information. To me, this just screams Myles Garrett is an absolute warrior, and the Browns don't want the rest of the NFL to know just exactly how or where injured he is. So we're just going to call it a leg injury, and it's probably somewhat severe, like knowing last year with him playing through that shoulder injury when he left the stadium in a sling. The guy's an absolute warrior. You just can't get Myles Garrett off the field even if you tried. So him going out there, every single Sunday with a foot injury moving forward, it's probably a major pain tolerance, and there's just no way 95 is going to miss a game. So awesome to see him play through this. Obviously, it speaks a lot to his character and just the motor and the drive he has, but I'd be lying if I wasn't concerned about Myles Garrett and whether or not he ultimately feels like, hey, even though I want to keep playing, I got to shut this down to get surgery to correct this once and for all. So we'll have to wait and see on that front, but I'm glad that coming out of this game, he was considered just day-to-day when it easily could have been a much more severe injury. And maybe it is severe, but he's still going to play through it. Now, whenever we get injury updates, we're going to be the first ones to tell you guys about them. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Help us get to our next milestone, 37,000 subscribers. So for 127 of you watching that are not subscribed, help us get there today. Now, let's talk about the offensive line a little bit more because it was a disaster yesterday. And it's been a disaster for the first 3 weeks, and it really has not improved much at all. The Browns dealt with more injuries, and this is what their offensive line looked like at the end of the game. You had Joel Petonio going from left guard to left tackle. You had Ethan Posick sliding over one spot to left guard from center. Nick Harris stepped in at center because Wyatt Teller came out of the game, and along with Jed Wills at left tackle. You had Zach Zinter at right guard to replace Wyatt Teller, and then you had Dawg Jones at right tackle, but that was only because James Hudson got injured. And now we need to talk about Dawg Jones. What happened to him? Last year, he was one of the biggest draft steals a phenomenon. Like, he was a praying mantis, just the way he commanded the right side of the offensive line. This year, I mean, I'm not one to talk, but he looks fat, overweight, and out of shape. We are watching every single edge rusher not beat him with this like deep plethora of moves in a deep arsenal. They're just running around him. I mean, he's getting a hand on them and then watching them go by. Every single time I watch Dawand Jones, I'm watching him look at the nameplate of the guy he's guarding, who is then sacking Deshaun Watson. Dawand Jones is becoming somewhat unplayable. I don't know if it's a coaching issue, if it's just a Dawand Jones didn't come into the season right issue, if it's a lingering knee issue from last year, but something is very, very wrong with 79. And it's on full display every single week. Now, Deshaun Watson, rightfully so, deserves a lot of the blame for the offensive woes. And we can have a deeper conversation about that later on, which, by the way, will be live on the channel in a few hours to do so. So stick around for that, where we really dive into who to blame more so. But through 3 games so far, what do you think the bigger issue is on offense? Deshaun Watson or the offensive line? For me personally, I understand that Deshaun Watson getting paid all that money and all the draft capital costs to get him, it puts a little bit more pressure on him to deliver and to overcome some of the shortcomings from the receiver room or the offensive line, since they didn't have first-round picks to use at those positions. But that doesn't make him all of a sudden Superman. Like, just because you gave him $230 million and gave up all those draft picks for him doesn't make him a better quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, you're still getting the same guy, or what we thought was the same guy from Houston, but the offensive line is not giving him any time whatsoever. There are instances where he can check it down, and that's something that he can work on. But if you want to get nitpicky and if you want to start critiquing, the issue starts up front. Like, this game is won and lost in the trenches. Go ask all the great coach about it. Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, always investing in the trenches. The Browns, unfortunately, have not invested in the trenches adequately enough recently. And they are letting the age of the offensive line come back to bite them in the butt. Like, with their first pick in the draft this year, they went defensive line, right? They really have not made any major additions to this offensive line for a couple of years, and it is starting to show. So for me, I got to go with the offensive line. That's not giving Deshaun Watson a pass. There is plenty of bad tape out there on Watson. But if you really want to go play by play and just go tit for tat, I think the offensive line is in a worse spot right now than the quarterback play. So hopefully we can get an improvement out of it. Andy Dickerson, the offensive line coach, is, I wouldn't say on the hot seat, but he's got some work to do this week. And man, do we miss Bill Callahan. Before we get on out of here, a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We've got an awesome deal going on with our friends over at Fanatics. If you want to get this Browns t-shirt and hat combo 25% off, go to chatsports.com/CLE combo. And like I said, 25% off. So if you're looking for a Christmas gift, because that's kind of coming up on us soon-ish, or you just want to give yourself something nice, get this nice t-shirt and hat combo, 25% off, under $30. Also, we had a great-ish watch party yesterday, minus, the whole loss and everything. So I do want to show some love to the Brown and Orange Club. Tim Green, Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, Slow But Sure, David Botner, Jared Brandt, James Harper, Papa T, Joseph DePorte, Mike, Ray Bidding, Dr. No, Eli Green, John Porter, Scorpion, and then our latest member, Max T, part of the Thompson crew. Appreciate you guys for really going above and beyond to support the channel. If you want to get a shout out at some point or for all the 2024 season, $50 super chat and we'll add you to the club. All right, quick reminder though, we are going to be live here in just a few hours, but I wanted to get this video out to you as soon as possible. So come hang out with us every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern for a live mailbag, a live back and forth, and a good discourse talking about what we saw on Sunday. So come hang out with us in just a few short hours for more in-depth analysis and breakdown of the Week 3 loss.